I'm going to have to struggle with it, but it's worth it. Now, I will tell you that when I went for this surgery on February 13th, 2003, I was very clear about the fact that I wasn't going to undergo the knife in order to go through the rest of my life yo-yo dieting. So I got me a physical trainer, I got myself a coach, and then proceeded to work with them on overcoming my behavioral problems around this. And the only way I was able to do it was to begin to plan for the rest of my life. I already had the protocols out for how to follow the post-op recovery system. I didn't have to think about that. But I had to start imagining what I wanted to do with my life after I had it handled. I know that sounds seditious. There are people who tell you it's kind of like being in AA. You know, you can never stop thinking about food as the enemy. You can never stop thinking about counting the calories or the carbs or the proteins. You can never stop being on guard. You can never stop exercising that willpower, because the moment you stop, you're going to get it all back. What I discovered is that I could not live the rest of my life trying to be in a struggle, trying to be constantly vigilant. I had lived the first part of my life that way, and what that taught me was you go on and off, on and off, on and off. Because no one can live in a state of battle-ready willpower 24/7 for the rest of your life. Anyone who's been in the armed forces can tell you. You tell a battalion to, hold the hill until reinforcements come for the next 48 hours. They can hold the hill for 48 hours. You tell them to hold the hill indefinitely, like maybe for the rest of their lives, you're going to lose that battalion. And yet we tell ourselves that this surgery is going to be successful because after I lose all that weight, I will have the willpower because of my success at losing the weight. I will have the willpower to fight it for the rest of my life. And my point is that there's a totally different paradigm that says if you become so familiar with the life you dreamed about having, the life that is juicy and creative and satisfying and exciting, then the more detail you give yourself about creating that life, the more familiar it becomes, the more you start to actually bring it into your life, the more you start behaving as if it's already a done deal, then that reptilian brain says, okay, I recognize that behavior. We'll let him get a little step closer to that. Or we'll let him get a little step closer to that, because that's familiar to you. And so the more you start incorporating that future life that you've seen in such great detail into your present, the more the threat level goes down. And as the threat level goes down, so do the triggers that come into being with the self-sabotage. The triggers for self-sabotage sneak in. But how many of you, when you've been yo-yo dieting, know finally at some point it's happening again? That little voice in the back of your head goes, oh God, it's happening again. How many of you have had that, oh God, it's happening again? Okay. So you have that moment, and then a few days later or a few weeks later, you just watched it accelerate and accelerate, and then you get to the point of, oh, what's the use? And you just throw in the towel completely. How many of you reached that point? Like, what was the point? That feeling of being a bystander to your own life, like watching a car crash in slow-mo, okay? We replace all that in coaching with the capacity to envision something completely different, which is an intimate awareness of what you want to dream about making come true in your life. And I'm not talking about fantasy. Okay, fantasy is wonderful, but you have no control over your fantasy. I have a fantasy of winning Mega Millions. I really do. I mean, I don't bother with it when they're only at 10 million. I mean, that's chump change. But they get 47 million, yeah, I'll plunk out a buck. I mean, it only takes one. Okay? That's my fantasy. And my husband and I can play along with it, and we say, okay, now tomorrow, do you want me to wake you if we win, or should we sleep in that day? Fantasies are wonderful, and they have a place in our behaviors. But let's not confuse what I'm talking about with fantasy. I'm talking about becoming so intimately comfortable with who you are that you now give yourself permission to dream about what you want to do, how you want to look, how you want to feel. And then your body will be constructed to support that life. Thank you so much for listening.